politics overwhelmed his career and his marriage. In 1948, Reagan traveled to London to make a picture called The Hasty Heart, directed by Vincent Sherman.
I think it was the second or third night he was there. We had dinner together. We came back to the hotel and began to talk. It was then that he told me he was very unhappy about the divorce and the breakup with Jane. And I felt very sorry for him. I thought he was, as I said, deeply affected by it. The rumor around Warner Brothers was that she had said that he was boring. And somebody said, well, Ronnie was like the encyclopedia. You drop any subject on the table and he'd run with it. It wasn't a happy relationship. And I think it came as a surprise to him when she said that she wanted to leave him.
After his divorce, his movie career continued to suffer. Few good roles came his way, and he took to playing MC on the nightclub circuit.
Ladies and gentlemen, now for another special award. To present that award, a very special young lady, Jane Mansfield.
Soon there were better times for Reagan. In 1949, he met a young actress named Nancy Davis at a friend's dinner party. Nancy fell in love.
He was less like an actor than anybody I'd known. He never talked about my last picture, my next picture. He had a wide range of interests. He was a Civil War buff. He loved horses. He was the complete antithesis of an actor.
Reagan was not eager to remarry. Hurt deeply by the desertion of his first wife, he had become distrustful. But he grew in time to rely on Nancy, who, unlike Jane Wyman, was interested in playing a supporting role. After a 4-year courtship, they were married in 1952. Professionally, Reagan was more active as a union leader than as an actor. He stirred controversy when, as Screen Actors Guild president, he signed an agreement between the Guild and the giant talent agency, MCA. MCA wanted to become a major producer of TV programs, but long-standing Guild policy restricted their expansion.
No agent could wear the two hats of employee as an agent and employer as a production company. And the Screen Actors Guild did grant a waiver to this regulation to MCA. And of course, that was a quite unprincipled, wrong thing to do.
It may have been wrong, but as Reagan saw it, what was good for business was good for everybody. At least it was good for Reagan.
Research.
When, in 1954, MCA launched the flagship of its television production empire, Reagan was named host and given a contract worth over $125,000 a year.
I'm Ronald Reagan, speaking for General Electric. Tonight's program stars Fred Waring.
Reagan became a kind of living advertisement for GE.
On the General Electric Theater.
I'm your General Electric progress reporter, Don Herbert. And tonight we're going visiting as the guests of Ronnie and Nancy Reagan in their new home in Pacific Palisades. You know, good modern lighting makes a great deal of difference in the way you live. Now, this is an open court off our living room.
Now the struggling actor had a chance to return to what he always did best. Use his voice and personality to appeal directly to an audience.
This, of course, is our living room. You know, Nancy, we'll see Patty later on.
Hello? Our lighting in
I think GE was very astute in that they wanted somebody that had the qualities of Ronald Reagan to present to the American public, and I think that they were they had a campaign on to find somebody, and I think he was the epitome of the American male at that time, and he did it. And he represented the country well, he spoke well, people liked him, loved him, and believed in what he said.
To promote the TV program, Reagan toured the country, visiting GE offices and factories. His GE producer was Earl Dunkel.
The original reason for taking him around was so that he would charm our vice presidents all over the country, so they would leave us alone long enough to develop a program. And it worked. When I first went out with him, he had a standard speech. And that standard speech was that the people in Hollywood are badly vilified for no real reason, that their divorce rate was lower than that in the public at large, and so on and so forth. It was, I always cataloged it in my mind as a defense of Hollywood speech. But then as time went on, he moved into other areas. Now, there came a time when we were in Schenectady, New York, and they were holding a massive teachers' convention at the Armory there. And at the last minute, their speaker was ill or couldn't come, and they came to see me and ask if they could get Mr. Reagan as a speaker. And I said, no, I know nothing about education, and if I did, I wouldn't have time to write a talk like that, so I'm sorry, but we'll have to beg off. And Ron, who was there then, said, nah, let's do it, Doc. Trust me. And that night, he got up before teachers and gave a talk on education that had them applauding for 10 minutes after he sat down. He knew exactly what he was talking about. They knew he knew what he was talking about. And I was absolutely amazed. And from then on, when he said, trust me, I didn't worry about it.
Gradually, Reagan turned the tour into a series of political speeches. He took much of his direction from the people he addressed.
Reagan, like a lot of people in Hollywood, and I suppose like a lot of politicians, is a creature of his audiences. And I say that even though that Reagan has very strong and profound views about certain issues, but he's always wanted to please his audience. Now, the issues that were on the minds of his audiences, which were mostly service club and business audiences, were the kind of post-New Deal issues we had in this country: government regulation, high taxes. Reagan had a very strong view about that because he was earning money for the first time in his life of any significant amount, and the tax rates were then the highest. Well, what happened is he began to reflect the concerns of the audiences he addressed.
He had a fantastic ability to sense the mood of an audience. And within 4 or 5 sentences after he started speaking, he would determine if the way he was approaching them was being received well by them. And if not, he'd shift a gear and go into another approach, saying that with the same subject matter, but a different way of presenting it.
In 1962, after 8 years as GE spokesman, Reagan was fired. The reasons are unclear, but at the time, his producer, MCA, was facing possible indictment by the Kennedy Justice Department for monopolistic practices. Reagan had his tax records subpoenaed and was summoned to testify amid allegations that he had conspired with MCA and that his GE contract had been an illegal kickback.
Our enemies are largely within ourselves. Indifference, passiveness, a lack of standards and values about right and wrong, good and bad.